Hello, everybody. My name is Angelica from the Specialized Center for Stuttering. Today, I am very happy because I am with a very special guest. She's Marta Horrocks. I invite her to be today with us to talk about stuttering in school-age children. But before starting, I would like to ask you, Marta, if you could introduce yourself.
Sure. So I am a speech language pathologist in the United States. I live way north in Maine. I have my own private practice where I work with school age kids who stutter and also see some other pediatric clients, but that's my true love, is working with school age kids who stutter. And I also have a Instagram where I share information about stuttering and stuttering speech therapy.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Um, I mean, we always have translated some of your content into Spanish and things like that. So yeah, thank you. And well,
Thank you for having me.
a pleasure. And well, the main topic of this video is to talk about stuttering in school age children. So yeah, I would like to start asking a question or something that is like, I feel that it's a topic that we don't talk too much actually, but it's important to mention because what I'm trying to say is, well, we know that stuttering starts in preschool age children when they are 2, 3, 4, or 5 years old is when they started to stutter. However, we also know that there are some cases, less cases, when some children started to stutter at 8, 9, that are around that age. And here it's important to make a distinction because it's different when a children started to stutter at 4, but the parents took him to therapy at 8, with someone that actually started to stutter at 8 years old. And there is a difference. And of course, when the children come or the family comes to the therapy, they are like, he's 8 years old. Like, what happened here? Could you share us a bit more about this, please?
Well, yeah, there's kind of two different things going on when we look at preschool. I don't get to work with very often, but when we look at preschool stuttering, we often are considering whether they will continue to persist stuttering. So about 80% of those kids will not persist. And so we might be looking at helping them to speak more easily. We might also be thinking about like their emotions and feelings, but really it's just helping them to speak more comfortably. When a child comes to us that's 8 and is still stuttering, and had that later onset, then we start to think that this might be a child who's going to persist in stuttering, meaning that they're going to continue to stutter through adulthood. And then our goals and what we're going to be working on in therapy is going to start to shift a little bit. We still want them to be comfortable and to communicate, but there are other things at play too. We might want to start thinking about self-advocacy, how they navigate the world as somebody who's going to continue to stutter likely. We might be looking at what they know about stuttering, whereas for the preschoolers, we might not talk about that as much. We might be connecting them with the stuttering community, with other people who stutter. So there's kind of a big shift. Is that what you were picturing, Angelica?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Glad
Yeah.
we're on the same page. Okay.
But yeah. It's interesting because I mean we could have like 2 children who stutter, one that start at 8 and another one that start at 4, let's say.
Yep.
And indeed there's like a slight difference on how you work with these 2 children, even though they both are studying right now at 8.
Right.
Because it's like one children has many years talking in this way.
Right.
But for others, it's like, I remember how it used to be to talk without having this. Like, I remember very clearly what happened here. So, of course, the feelings and the thoughts are kind of different also. And yeah, I just found very interesting that actually.
Yeah, that later onset. I totally hear what you're saying. It is interesting that they've experienced a change instead of sort of growing up this way as a communicator,
Yeah.
and sort of unpacking that new experience for them. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's a topic that we still need to look more into, like to know, I don't know, to work more on research. And this is funny because like next week I have the meeting with Scott to discuss about my thesis project, and I'm like just having
Ooh,
ideas right now, and now that's another good idea, the
that's a
different
good idea.
treatment.
I have a feeling, I don't know if you feel this way, but I have a feeling that one day there will be many different types of people who stutter, that we might find that there's something different neurologically, or I don't know, that distinguishes kids who start early on versus kids who start later. Obviously, there can be, some sort of like physical trauma that happens, like for older people who start stuttering, like adults. But I think it's really interesting to think about the future of stuttering as well, that we might come to know it in some subcategories. And
Yeah.
do you feel that way?
Yeah, I feel that it's also this idea that we have generalized the
Mm,
treatment, but actually at
mhm.
the same time it has to be very specific. So at the end,
Right.
the treatment that I don't know, what I work with children could be different with another. There may be some things in common, but it's still different. So yeah, like kind of interesting. And
Yeah.
now I would like us to like um be well, yeah, to talk about children who stutter in school age years. And for example, there's like a um um sorry.
Okay.
No, it's fine. um and yeah, I mean, when we work with this population, there are many things we need to work on. But as I was saying just a few minutes before, it's like there are some things in common that we actually need to work on. For example, could you share us a bit, what do you think are some goals that, or some things that we actually need to work with children who stutter?
I try to keep, there's, like you said, there's like a million things that we could
Yes.
do, and every child is so different. And so it's kind of hard to, I feel like every kid who stutters could have completely different goals. But something that I try to keep in mind is kind of like four areas. And this isn't something that like speech therapists need to memorize or anything like that. But for me, I try to think about confidence. How do they feel as communicators? Do they feel like they're being effective communicators? I try to think about how comfortable they feel, so that could be like the physical tension, how they, sometimes people who stutter describe stuttering as uncomfortable. So how can maybe we introduce a strategy so that it feels a little bit more comfortable, whatever it is. I think about self-compassion. How do they feel as a person who stutters, as an identity? Do they feel like they're kind to themselves as a person who stutters? And then the last one is a self-advocacy piece. So are they able to let their environment know what they need to be more effective, especially in a world that largely does not understand stuttering, or is starting to more, but there's still a lot of myths and stigma. And so sadly, the burden of sharing information largely falls on people who stutter. And I don't know if you feel this way. But to tell people, actually, I just need this, or actually, I'm not nervous, or and it could be just as small as that. But so confidence, feeling comfortable, self-compassion, and self-advocacy are like four things that I try to keep in mind when I'm thinking about goals.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like, because I mean we always try to share this idea that stuttering is not just the way we speak. Stuttering is how
Mm,
we feel. Stuttering is how we, what we think of ourselves. Stuttering how the parents react to it. Stuttering is everything. Like what
Yeah.
someone asked me, what should I work in stuttering? And I'm like, everything.
Yeah.
Family, the school, the environment, like everything.
Yeah.
Um, and here I would like to ask you another question.
Mhm.
What is one of your favorite activities to do with children who stutter?
Oh gosh. I know when you mentioned that you might ask me this, and then I was like, there's so I feel like the most successful activities that I can do that the child enjoys and also that I enjoy, because it's a two-way street, right? Like if I'm giving them
Of
an
course.
activity, I'm like, this is boring, then that's going to come across, right? But anyway, the best activities are the ones where the child's interests are really engaged. So I really like when I can introduce some sort of like creative element. So one of my favorites is like that classic activity where you have kids like draw their stutter. But I like to, like, if there's a kid who's I have a client right now who's really into skateboarding, and I was like, what if you like designed like a skateboard that like had to do with stuttering? Like what would that look like? And thinking about like what colors does he add, like what designs, like those open-ended, engaging, but gives the client the opportunity to tell you their perspective. Like I'm not making my own skateboard, like those are my favorite activities to do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There are a lot of things that I also enjoy when it becomes to therapy. Um,
Mm,
I think something I really enjoy is when we have these meetings when the children meet each other, but also
mm,
with the family. Like
yeah.
give that sense of your children is going to be okay. You know
Mm,
that now maybe you will feel like 100 things going on, and it's completely normal to feel worried and frustrated thinking in the future, but like I really enjoy those sessions when I can
mm,
give the parents the message of it's going to be okay, and they actually understand it, so they're like, okay, he's going to be okay. I think those are
mm.
one of my favorite sessions in therapy. I like, I don't know, see the children and the parents like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
it'll be fine.
I was just thinking while you're saying that something kind of similar, if like you're a speech therapist in a school and you don't have access to the parents in that way, or
Mm,
um something that I really like to do is include videos or audio of people who stutter. Like, so bringing, not obviously not interacting, but bringing stuttering voices into the session, and introducing parents to, oh, you can listen to this person on social media or whatever it is, but having opportunities to hear people stutter, and maybe hear them talk about stuttering, or just being a person who stutters out in the world. And I feel like that's another way to show like it's going to be okay, that this is a normal thing, that there are other people who stutter in the world, and you are amongst that group. I
yeah.
don't I was just thinking about that as you're talking, but
Yeah.
I love that too.
Yeah. And I think during COVID, there were, I remember I share this time to time. I have the permission of my brother and my sister-in-law because my niece is also a children stutters.
Mm.
So when I share something about them, I ask for permission to their parents, even to
Oh.
my brother, of course. Um, I remember my niece during COVID. Of course, she did therapy on my clinic, as you can imagine. And she made friends with another children from Ecuador,
Mm. Mm.
and I am from Lima, from
Yeah.
Peru. So it's like children even can. If you don't have any other client that is, I don't know, with that is the same age, there's still other chances like really, my niece made friends who started from Ecuador or from Mexico, I think.
Mm.
So it was like
Mm.
there's another options, and
Yep.
I think can work completely fine and in school age group who started also. So that's like another really good, I don't know, suggestion, I think.
I think one of the coolest things about stuttering is that it's present in every language. So there's like, it's not just, something that English speakers do. So there's like a whole international component. It's one of the things, I mean, even connecting with you, like you lived in Peru, now you live in Michigan. I live in Maine. We're like miles, thousands of miles apart.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, but I'm just as an example, like just the international community is so strong, and especially as kids who stutter grow up and become adults, and can access those adult supports, there's so many ways to connect,
Yeah.
that are really neat.
Yeah, I agree. Time flies, Marta. I always feel that I talk for 5 minutes and actually it's like 15, 20. So I'm like,
Agreed.
yeah. But well, I mean, it's been a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for accepting my invitation. And well, I'm sure we will keep in touch. So until next time then.
Thank you for having me. It was fun to talk.
Thank you.